Hello everyone, welcome back to Film and Flash. Today we're reviewing the Asahi Pentax K1000. This camera was produced from 1976 to 1997, and it was an extremely durable, uh, fully manual film SLR. My specific model is the model that they assembled in Hong Kong, which, if you look right here, that was between the middle grounds of their production. I believe they started making them from 1978 to 1990. I don't know. I know they started making them over in Hong Kong relatively early. However, a lot of people prefer these over the ones that are fully made in Japan. Uh, it doesn't really matter. It's just a whole. Basically, at one point they started making them in China, and that's when they kind of went downhill. But at this specific point in time, this was like the best you could have because the light seals and meters in them were a lot better. So it has a simple, matchstick metering system where it's just a little needle that goes and tells you uh, what your exposure's at and what to set the camera at. It's quite simple, and when you're looking through the camera, um, obviously you guys can't really see much. It's just a little matchstick metering system. You wouldn't be able to see anything in there anyway. There's a plus and a minus, and basically right in the middle is where you want to be. Plus is overexposed, minus is underexposed. This is the original lens, the SMC Pentax M mount. Pentax M, Pentax mount is probably what it stands for. This is the one that came on the camera. It is not a numbers matching lens, but I don't really think they do come with numbers matching lenses because that would have to imply that the lens was made at the same time as the camera, and I imagine that's not the case. I imagine they had a separate production line for that. It will accept almost any flash that was designed for film SLRs during that era. It is Pentax mount, which they are commonly available camera lenses on the market today. There are still, you can still easily get Pentax brand, or you can get a variety of other brands for the Pentax camera. Due to how popular it was, they made a ton. This is its original Asahi Pentax strap. It did come with a case, but the case was destroyed. The strap kind of survived, so I kept the strap. But I did throw away the case. It is a mint condition camera. There is no physical signs of wear on the body. I do believe it to be fully functioning. However, I haven't put a battery in it and tested the light meter. It is serial number 7936969. Nuh-uh. I did not know. That's funny. Oh, 5969. 7635969. Yeah. That's the serial number it is. It is all original and it is fully functioning at all of its shutter speeds. It sounds great. All of its shutter speeds work great. Everything is smooth on this camera, and I absolutely love it. The film advance counter still works, and it's clean on the inside. The shutter curtains look gorgeous. I will most definitely be shooting on this camera whenever I get the desire to shoot on manual film SLR. So, obviously some perks are reliability. Almost all of the cameras produced by Pentax are some of the most reliable ever produced back in the day. Ease of use is definitely beginner friendly. Obviously the lenses are cheap for it and you get good results. It has a tripod mount. So, I mean, I would say you could really, whatever you'd want to do, you could do with this camera. To an extent. Like, I don't think NASCAR racing's really gonna happen. But, any non, anything non-crazy you could probably do. Like, wildlife photography should be fine. It is a really nice camera. It has a nice texture on the little mid part of the body. It's like a nice leatherette, like a alligator skin is how I describe it, almost, as far as the texture goes. You know, you have nice texturing on your focus ring, your aperture ring. Everything's nice. So, fair market value for a working body is around $150. Um, you can find them cheaper if you're looking in person. At flea markets, I bought this at a flea market for $20, and it came with a lens, an extra lens, a telephoto converter, and 2 flashes. So some people just don't know what they have and they give them away. I bet you if the guy's watching this video, he's pretty mad he sold to me for that. When I got it, I thought it was broke because the mirror was stuck up. All you have to do sometimes is just adjust the shutter speed dial and it'll fall down. Easy fix. There aren't really any common issues with fully mechanical cameras. The most time the common issues are usually with the electronic aspects of the camera, like the light meter going out. But as far as mechanical goes, sometimes you'll have issues with the shutter as far as the shutter locking up. With Canon, there's something called a Canon cough. Now, like, issues with shutters tend to have been more common with the first gen electronically controlled shutters, like the Nikon FA or the Canon AE1 program. They tend to have a lot of issues with their shutters because they were really rushing at the time to beat each other, and they made a lot of shortcuts in manufacturing and rush stuff. So if you ever wondered why those cameras had such common issues, they were just rushing on them a lot. So that's why you saw like gaps in manufacturing quality and stuff along that line. But they are still genuinely reliable cameras, though, some of them, if you get lucky. Um, what was I going to say? So, yeah, that's the only common issues. The light meter will go out sometimes on, the light meter going out isn't too big of an issue on this model year. It is more of an issue on the early Pentax K1000s, but generally speaking, their light meters are relatively reliable compared to some of the other brands on the market. Um, the shutter curtain will sometimes degrade. It is not an issue on this one that I have, but it can be an issue on some cameras because until they started switching to like the newer like titanium shutter curtains and shit like that on the newer Nikons, like the F2 or they had it in the FA. So like I think up to the FA is when they started doing it, but it might have been, I don't know, but all the way up until like the 80s, the shutter curtains were kind of an issue. But they kind of fixed it right around the time this one came out. However, this one still has like a cloth shutter curtain. The shutter curtain is the shutter curtain is this right here. Sometimes they do degrade, but it's not really, shouldn't be an issue. Uh, you know, if you're going to buy one, just make sure the shutter sounds good. Check it at the lower shutter speeds, like from your 15, 8, 4, 2, and 1. 8, 4, 2, and 1 is where you're going to notice issues with the shutter if it has some. You'll notice it'll start to lag and the shutter mirror will sometimes get stuck up. That's a sign that it's going to need a clean lube and adjust. If you have no issues with that, I got lucky. This one doesn't have any. The next step, obviously, if there's no batteries in it, you can't check the light meter. But you could unscrew this real quick and make sure there's no corrosion, which is a good sign. And you could also check the shutter curtain and make sure it's not degraded. And then as long as you don't see any visible light gaps, like around here, like if it seems like it's gapped or bent anywhere around here, I wouldn't buy it. But as long as it seems all good, then yeah, go ahead and buy it. So 150 is fair market value for one that's in this condition. Mint like this, probably a little bit more, but an average used body goes for about 150. I'm not going to go over too much of the history of it. It was obviously very revolutionary because of its reliability, its simplicity. Everybody had one back then. When I had this on my table when I was set up selling cameras, everyone stopped and asked about it. I ended up adding it to my permanent collection just because of how iconic it is. But yeah, everybody loved these cameras. I would definitely recommend this camera for someone looking to get into manual film photography. If you don't want to have all the bells and whistles of like the newer Nikons or Canon film cameras, you'd be perfect with one of these. And if you prefer like a nice heavy metal feel, obviously some of the newer Pentaxes were like a plasticky, but this is still mostly an aluminum body. So, um, yeah, that's generally who it's aimed towards. If you want like to have the pinnacle of 35 millimeter photography, you're going to be looking at the Nikon F series. But as far as like the Pentax goes, this is probably like the sweet spot where I'd want to be as far as reliability on a manual film camera. Obviously, the Spotmatics are nice as well. I would probably go with one of those over this, but if you are simply looking for also the Spotmatics are generally more affordable than the K1000 as well, just because this one's kind of like really in demand. I would go with a Spotmatic over this, but as far as general manual film photography, and you want a reliable body that is capable, and I'd go with this. The light meters are generally accurate, but they're very simple. So they're only going to be good for simple lighting scenes. That's not like the newer matrix metering that Nikon came out with, or it doesn't have any various. I think it's just spot metering. Or I think it's center weighted metering. It's just what you're stuck with for these older bodies. So it's just going to be taking the middle of the scene in, as opposed to like a matrix metering, which is like a grid pattern that's mapping out all of the various lighting scenarios. It's kind of like there's a bunch of dots where it's taking in the scene and adjusting your light. Um, yeah, I like this camera. It has, little orange markers indicating your shutter speed and what shot you're on. It's generally very straightforward, and I would recommend this camera. Thank you guys for watching, and Film and Flash out.